request our President, Dr. Yashpal Sharma, to give the welcome address, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Good afternoon to each one of you. Today we have 13th webinar, and topic is very interesting: issues and challenges in organ donation with transplantation. And it's my privilege to welcome uh, Professor Dr. Anil Kumar Gupta, who is Dean Research from Medical Superintendent and HOD Hospital Administration at PGI Chandigarh. He is our teacher also and popularly known as teacher of teachers. We are very happy to have you here, sir. And I can only request you to please ensure your presence in fortnightly webinars, because these webinars are being organized every fortnight and your presence can always make a difference. I request Professor Vipan Kaushal, Additional Medical Superintendent, cum Nodal Officer, Roto North, PGI Chandigarh. We are really grateful to you, sir, for joining us today. I also welcome Professor Ashish Sharma, who is Head Department of Renal Transplant Surgery, PGI Chandigarh. It's a great privilege to have the three speakers on this topic today, which is of immense importance. And I'm sure that after the webinar, people will go very happy for this place. I have a few informations to share. I'll take this opportunity, not take much of time. One is that every webinar we have, we upload the video on YouTube. So you will have all the videos on the YouTube. I'll request each member to please visit our social media platforms, including the YouTube, and like that, and you can see the videos. Then we are launching a new program that is on the management development program for health executives and medical superintendents. So we have very senior faculty members here. I request them to please provide your inputs for the program. We have already shared the mail and be part of it, because this is the core hospital administration program, which was not there, and now we are going to start it, and we will be continuing it, and this will be one of the best programs of PHA as such. I extend the invitation to all of you for 31st of October, that is Sunday. We have a program, small get together at EHA House, because EHA House has been renovated and refurbished, and it has been given a new look. So on that day, we are dedicating it to the life members of the EHA, and we have an lunch also. So I'll humbly request all of you to join and make this program great success. I will not take much more time, and there are many challenges in organ transplantation, and who else better than this team can elaborate on it. I'll not go into the details, but I'll only say that organ transplantation is one of the most incredible discoveries of 20th century, which has improved the lives of hundreds of thousands of patients all around the world. And this is among the top 5 greatest medical miracles, which has the ability to give someone second chance of life. The challenges in transplantation include interplay of socio-cultural factors, beliefs and superstitions, lack of communication and organizational support, and negative views by media and many other people. There are many ethical issues in it, which includes the organ trading also, which has become a very common practice nowadays. I'll not divulge further on it because we have a lot of experts on it. I thank you once again, sir, all of you, for joining us. I am really thankful to the life members, PHA members, students who have joined the webinar. And thank you very much once again. Over to Shaba.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yash, for that warm welcome and elaborate invite to all of us for the various programs going forward. I will not stand in between the participants, delegates, and Dr. Gupta, Dr. Vipin, and Professor Ashish. I would just like to remind everybody on a hygiene issue as far as the presentation is concerned. We will have a clean presentation up to 40 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes. And we would request people to put their questions on the chat box, and you will be offered a chance after the presentation is over to talk about the queries in your mind. And let's have a good afternoon discussion on organ transplantation. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Very good afternoon to all of you, and I thank the AHA, its president, its executive director, and all the members for giving me the opportunity to share our experiences at PGI Chandigarh and the issues and challenges we faced during our taking organ donation and transplantation ahead. This is a snapshot of 26 years I have been here as a medical superintendent. And during this period, you will see it is divided into two parts. Firstly is the first 19 years, and then in 2015 when government came out with the Noto, Soto, Roto, all those things, and we got the Roto. In 2015, we took up this issue of cadaver donation very vigorously with Professor Vipin as a nodal officer. And you will see that till date, we have done 243 cadaver donations. Why I'm taking this snapshot in the beginning? Because all the issues, challenges, and the solutions I'm going to share is out of our carrying out these tasks. The issues emerged while performing this gigantic task, and the challenges we faced, and possibly some of the key issues where we could share our solutions. I am sharing it. In the last 26 years, we have carried out 243 cadaver donations, 465 kidneys were transplanted, 80 livers were transplanted. Of course, most of them in PGI-MER, and where there was no recipient or some other reasons, it was shared with others through green corridors. Same is true of heart. We had could retrieve and harvest 17 hearts. We had perhaps transplanted around 6 hearts. Rest have been shared. We have transplanted 27 pancreas and 2 lungs. Total organs so far has been harvested is 591, which has been transplanted, and the beneficiaries so far are 557. Why? Because in some cases we transplanted liver and pancreas simultaneously. So on cornea, which is very dear to my heart, and in the last 26 years, we have harvested, retrieved 8,417 corneas, and the cornea transplantation rate internationally is around 70%, and in my institute it is 90%. That means around 7,500 people have been given the eyesight. Now, next, my derivation will be, I will be covering firstly the scenario, concept, issues and challenges of most important, as the topic also mentions, and then some case studies, and if time permits, success stories. I will be little fast. What is the scenario? There are 5 lakh patients waiting for organ transplantation in India. A little breakup. 1,80,000 kidneys are needed every year. And how many are transplanted? Only 6,000. And the scenario with regard to liver is also not very encouraging. 30,000 livers need to be transplanted every year. Only 1,500 livers are transplanted, mostly in the private hospital. Fortunately, in my institute also, as I shared with you, we do cadaver liver transplant. Hearts, 50,000 heart transplants are required each year in our country, and only 15 are done. And corneal blindness is said to be around 1.1 million, that is 11 lakh cornea, only 25,000 are available. So there is a huge and it is widening gap about the availability and the requirement. Now, another reality check is why it is so. The total number of actually diseased organ donors per million in our country was, till the COVID arrived, was 0.5 per billion. And the highest then was Spain, which was around 48 persons per million. But post-COVID, which I am sharing with you, the USA has taken the lead. There are 38.03 people per million who kidney transplant is taking place, or other organ transplants are taking when disease organ donors are available. Spain has come to number 1, but a picture with regard to India has become more dismissal. It has come down from 0.5 persons per million to 0.25 persons per million, thanks to COVID, which has brought this down. The concept is cadaver organ donations, where the brain dead patients whose other organs are working virtually through ventilator, the organs and the tissue can be harvested and transplanted to those who need it to save their life, to prolong their life. And some of the organs I am sharing is eyes, lungs, kidneys, pancreas, skin, bone, tendon, femoral veins, intestines, liver, heart and heart valves are commonly used. Then another issue is who are the possibly organ donors? Both. Most people can be organ donors, then disease organ donor and also living organ donors. Everybody knows that living organ donors can give the kidney and the some part of the liver, but as far as tissues that can be harvested or organs that can be harvested from the cadaver donors are heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas and intestine. Similarly, tissue like cornea, middle layer, skin, etc. Time constraints make me to run a little faster. So what is a brain death? A death where the brainstem stops working, and there is no known case on this planet since millions of years that a person who has got brain dead, that he can be revived. So anybody whose brain dead, whose brainstem has stopped working, but other organs are working, percussive ventilators, that he is a potential case for cadaver organ donations. And if the family permits harvesting of the organs, and as per the Transplantation of Human Organs Act 1994, and it is modified recently also 2011, 2014, 2016, etc. The hormone, if all the provisions are met, family gives a consent, we can harvest the organ and transplant to those people who their organs are sick, not working to the optimum level, and they dearly need it for their life. That can be done. But provisions of Transplantation of Human Organs Act has to be followed very strictly, failing which prosecution. And unfortunately, I am sharing that many doctors and other people and the hospital owners have been prosecuted and they are behind the bars. I know a couple of them personally. Common causes, road traffic accidents are the biggest cause of the brain death. Other are tumors, brain tumors, intracerebral hemorrhage, ischemia, etc. Then the core, the nucleus of the presentation is what are the roadblocks, what are the issues? And among the issues are high burden of organ failure cases. I have shared with you that we need 180,000 kidneys each year. Is a very high requirement, very high organ failure. Poor availability of the donor is a very big cause. Sadly, the hospitals are not having brainstem death certification committees. I'm very fortunate. I have interacted with large number of hospitals, at least in the 7 states. The inputs are available to us on the SOTO. Very few hospitals have brainstem death certification committees. lack of awareness of concept of brain death is very common. And let me share you, let me little ruthless, even among the doctors. Many known elite doctors also don't know what is the total concept of brain death. When I was talking to my colleagues, I said, let's not talk about doctors. Then my colleague said, no, doctors are in no way completely know of the things. There are also lack of awareness among them. Illegal trade, there has been rampant illegal trade. Fortunately, the present government has worked very hard to check it. It has gone down tremendously. Exploitation of vulnerable population, particularly rich men, politicians, they are people who are known to exploit the poor people. I know from my experience, I am also the chairman of authorization committee at PGI Chandigarh from the last 12 years. I know how the rich and powerful people attempt exploiting the poor patients. Though fortunately for us, we have resisted it successfully so far. Another thing I have found is lack of standard operating procedures in the transplantation in most of the hospitals. And most important thing, the money, the high cost, especially for uninsured and poor, is very high. That is the common causes. Another causes are global status report I can share with you indicates that in 2018, India had reported 4,67,000 accidents and it reported 1,51,000 deaths. And it is also in an AIM study in the same year, it said that 67% of that deaths, the cause was brain death. Other deaths could be the multi-organ injuries. And assuming that even 10% give or we succeed in retrieving organs from 10% of brain death people, there could be 10,000 hearts, 20,000 kidneys, 20,000 lungs, and so on. We can make a huge difference, but the ground reality is we miserably fail to achieve the minimum standards of organ retrieval and transplantation. And then comes the challenges. What we have found is there is lack of awareness among the public. And doctors are not, they are also, large number of doctors are also as unaware as a common man. Then the prevalent myths are also there and misconceptions. I will share some of them. Indifferent attitude toward the subject is a very common thing, and dearth of organized activity to increase information, education, and communication, to increase awareness, remove the myths, to address the attitude is also lacking. Of course, NOTO, ROTO, and SOTO have been constituted by the government of India. They are doing reasonably well. I am very happy to say my ROTO has been very successful. They have won awards at the national level by the Union Health Minister also. One myth is I am too old, I cannot give. No, the non-person who has donated his organs are 95-year-old in USA. Another is my body will be disfigured after donation. Absolutely wrong. No disfiguration of any kind takes place. Then money and fame are considered in organ allocation. Absolutely not. This is strictly followed as per the rules and provisions of Transplantation of Human Organs Act. And I can take pride in saying that my institute, my surgeon and my doctors who are looking into it, they have never ever allowed such thing to happen, and we have never ever been the victim of such a thing. Of course, there are reports that the private hospital may be doing it, but if they are doing, they pay the price, and as the newspaper reports do indicate that some of them have been behind the bar also. Then some says my religion does not approve organ donation. Absolutely not. Incorrect. Turkey, a Muslim country, is worse than the 5th country where the organ donation is very, very prevalent. So how can the organ donation take place in Saudi Arabia also? The country which is Makkah and Medina, the most respected two names in the Muslim Islam. So this is wrong to say that, and attributing that religion does not approve organ One individual may say here and there, but the religion as a whole does not prevent organ donation. And then other challenges which are very, very common are the bottlenecks in hospital. Poor hospital infrastructure, very, very prevalent. When we looked into 7 SOTOs, we found that very few hospitals have good hospital infrastructure. That too with the vigorous, relentless efforts made by my ROTO team under the stewardship of Professor Bipan and couple of very good officers like Saryum and other. Overburdened hospital staff. Most of the government hospitals are overburdened. Nobody can deny this. We see more patients than any other country. Then there are roadblocks in registration. Nobody can carry out the organ donation unless the hospital has been registered. And registration process is very cumbersome. Of course, there are reasons. Easy registration, simple registration could be exploited by the illegal traders. But then registration is a bottleneck I have been seeing in the last 6 years I have been here. It is, and the issues which are related to the registration are too huge, and many times it takes a lot of time to resolve those. Conflict and undue credit is absolutely prevalent. Privy to these things, and in one odd, very important cases, I have to put my foot down to overcome it. In a struggling case, and time permits, I will be sharing. And lastly, lack of financial provisions for donors and recipients also. Fortunately, PJ has got certain arrangements wherein the financial assistance is provided both to the donor, because once they agree to donate the organ, the process may take up to 24 hours and maybe a little more. Till that time, they need to be sustained and with very expensive medicine, and that somehow we manage it because we have got a system. That's a story in itself. I will not delve much more on this. And then the recipients, very often recipients in PGI are very poor. They cannot afford the treatment, and we have got provisions. We have money available with them. We have separate revolving fund for them, and we spend that fund out of that fund. The poor recipients are maintained. Now, what are the possible solutions? The first and the foremost is develop appropriate and required infrastructure, which all hospitals who attempt to start the transplantation should do it. And the government's NOTO, SOTO and program has such a provision that the infrastructure can be developed. And I'm very happy to share with you that our ROTO has successfully developed infrastructure in some of the states like Rajasthan, Jammu and Kashmir, and few others. Apply with the appropriate authority of registration. Of course, registration is not a simple process, but if you do the planning properly, registration will not be a challenge. Training of ICU and emergency staff is absolutely essential to identify the brain death patient timely. Time is essence. Networking with the hospital, with the retrieval facility is absolutely essential. All hospitals may not be having the organ transplantation infrastructure, but they can be sourced from where we could retrieve brain dead persons' organs. So where the retrieval facilities are available. The NOTO, ROTO and SOTO has a provision where retrieval facilities among the approved hospital can be developed and is being processed, pursued and encouraged. Proactive step to promote program is very essential, and ROTO and SOTO has such a provision. They have funds available, they have manpower available, and they do a great job as ROTO Chandigarh is concerned. I'm very proud they have done a great job. Some of the case studies I can share with you. One is the first heart transplant, which took place on 5th of August 2013. Let me tell you, the family was willing to donate the heart. I happened to go to AIIMS New Delhi for certain reason, I don't remember. Till that time, being the medical superintendent, I gave all the consent, all the permissions. And on 6th of August, when I returned, I learned to, I asked, why is the hot transplant? Said, no, it has not been done. Why? They said issues are breaking the inertia and making the first heart transplant happens in India is a big issue. And there are a large number of inconsistencies. The stakeholders say there are fear of bad media coverage, publicity, and there are many legal issues. I'm very open and forthright to share that my head of the institute, who happens to be very close friend, he said, "Stop it! Don't. I cannot handle these large number of inconsistencies and legal issues and bad media." I said, "Okay." When I returned, I held the meeting. I said, "I take the responsibility. I will handle media. I will handle legal issues. I will handle all the inconsistencies." And I'm happy to share with you that with my team, with the Roto team, and with my faculty, we coordinated with various departments to bridge the gaps and make the process seamless. Had separate meetings with the select media to build a positive opinion, sought legal opinion to address doubts and conflicts, and I'm happy to say that we succeeded in getting the first heart transplant done. And lo and behold, I have shown you the newspaper cutting. PJ conducts fourth heart transplant. This is the fourth one. It was a big media news for all the positive reasons. And I must also admit that media has been a very great force, positive force in promoting cadaver organ donations. Another is authorization committee decision in donations. Here is another case. Father wants to donate to the daughter, and it appears before the authorization period. If you see the transplantation of human organ, the father don't have to seek approval of the authorization committee. And on inquiry, when I raised this question, I was told the DNA did not match. This was the challenge. The girl who was getting the kidney of his father, her mother had died. We have no reason to defame the mother. We had no reason to destroy the girl's family. We had no reason to destroy the man, the old man. So, while giving the consent for organ donation, we saw to it that we don't reveal the DNA profile, and we decided that not a single word of decision will ever emerge out of the committee meeting, so that the families are not destroyed. Another issue is donor is from the Manipur. And issue which came before us was, can the PGME or authorization committee approve the organ donation? We found a solution by asking we get the approval of the state authorization committee. Once that is grants the permission, we will also approve it. Another issue is very important. Tibetan girl and the boy is willing, Indian boy, not related in any way. He offers to donate the kidney, and he shared that his altruistic donation. The committee, which fortunately, though I am the chairman, but I have got many more powerful, more sourceful, more intelligent, and more senior people as the member, like the Director General Police, the Vice Chancellor, retired Vice Chancellor, and so many. They said no, they didn't approve it. The boy went to the High Court, and with the High Court's intervention, he got an order in his favor, and lo and behold, I, as a medical superintendent, authorized transplantation, overruling the authorization committee. Another issue is the organ sharing with Green Corridor. I'm very happy to share that issue is organ transplantation not possible in our hospital, where potential brain dead donor is available, but because of non-availability of matching recipients, no organ is to be wasted. This is our moral, this is our passion, this is our objective. And the answer is organ sharing is the way forward, and it is also covered in the Roto and Soto mandate. And lo and behold, we attempt Green Corridor. But what are the challenges for Green Corridor? Non-availability of the recipient, unwilling recipient in our institute, cross-matching fails, logistic arrangements. And we approached national registry of waiting recipients developed. We network with the NOTO, and we do the liaising with the traffic police and airport authorities. Logistics support is ensured, and coordination among the hospital is established, and lo and behold, we transport the organ through green corridor to other parts of the country, different hospital. For example, we have shared our organs with the AIMS or our hospital Delhi, even in Mumbai. So far, we have carried out around 36 green corridors very successfully. Rather, my colleagues tell me on one day, 6 green corridors were created to transport the organs from PGI Chandigarh, and which I am told is could be a Guinness Book of Record. Of course, we couldn't find time to look into it and get that record established. So, my dear sirs, I conclude my presentation with this: without the organ donor, there is no story, no hope, no transplant. But when there is an organ donor, life springs from death, sorrow turns to the hope, and a terrible situation is converted into a gift. One of the reasons is that a Muslim family reluctant to permit organ harvesting, and a Sikh friend of the Muslim family motivated, and lo and behold, there was a organ donation by a Muslim. So this is wrong to say the Muslims don't volunteer to give organs when the conditions are there. Similarly, 14-year-old boy, full of life, of a doctor couple of Shimla, met an accident, and see the commitment at that doctor couple. Despite the gravest tragedy in their life, they permitted PGI to harvest his organ, and PGI succeeded in giving life to 5 patients. Another, this personally, she is Prinka Jain. She was one of the motivators for the organ donations. Every program, she was always carrying all those programs. Never knew that one day she will also be the victim of the road traffic accident, and she will be the donor. I'm very happy that that family shared her organs, and she ended up giving life to a large number of people. This is another thing, little angel, only 39 days old. Her parents immortalized her by permitting us organ donation when her life could not be saved. And she ended up saving life of a person through kidney donation. She is the youngest person in the history of PGI. I believe she may be the youngest in the India also. So this is a beautiful video. Kindly watch the lady. Watch the doctor lady. My dear friends, let me tell you that lady is a doctor, and her son met an accident. She volunteered harvesting of her son's heart, and that man was the man who got the heart of this lady doctor's son. And here she is auscultating the heart of her son, and see the excitement. So, my dear friends, I offer my sincere thanks to the AHA for giving me the opportunity to share it. Thank you very much. Over to Dr.
Thank you so much for the art rendering session, sir. In fact, today only I went through one of the latest surveys undertaken by Ipsos, wherein global survey proved that the most respected professionals in the entire world, 54% has been given to doctors. And they rank higher than the teachers, who are at 43%. And there are others who are not respected. But then I can, with this presentation of yours, I can actually see that, why people respect doctors so much. And I think we all are proud of being doctors and being able to, touch people's life. I will hand it over to our participants and delegates if they have some questions for Sir and the entire PGI team for such a wonderful work on organ transplantation. Anybody, please. Sir, I have a question, sir, if nobody is asking, sir. So, sir, you talked
Yes.
about the green corridor that you have created, and you have been able to transport 38 organs for such transplants. So, what is typically the modus operandi and how do you manage it? Maybe you can just give us one case to understand it better.
And let me tell you, Professor Vipan, the all hard work on Green Corridor is done by him. I only put signature and communicating. I think if you really want to know all the nitty-gritty, he will be the best person.
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Dr.
Over to
Vipan.
Professor Vipan.
Shama, I think we can finish the lectures too.
That's in my presentation, bit of it.
Presentations, and then we can take
Yeah,
up the
so,
questions.
yes.
I think that will be.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I think I misunderstood. Yeah, please, sir. Please go ahead.
You can ask the next speaker to speak, start his presentation.
Yes, yes, Dr. Vipin, please go ahead, sir.
I'm going. Get to go. Good evening, esteemed AHA members who are participating in this very important webinar. Very eloquently, Dr. A.K. Gupta has presented the scenario, what is happening in transplantation program. I will be just discussing legal requirements for diseased transplantation, which is as we administrators have a role to enhance it. So I will start. Disease donor transplantation provides, as has been told, its hope, its gift of life. One tragedy can give life to 8 people. So it's a very, complicated, but it's well documented in the act itself. So we take steps in a well coordinated manner. The things can become very, smooth, and we get good positive results. So there has to be a potential donor who has to be in the ICU and ventilator. We need to have a good dedicated team of doctors, nursing staff, and the most importantly, the transplant coordinators who will coordinate with so many persons, the next of the kin. If it's a medical legal case, as been told, most of these cases are accident cases. So police has to be involved. Then we have to look for the recipients from the different departments to do the lab investigations for the donor and the recipient, retrieval and the postmortem and transportation of the body. All has to be done as per the act, that is Transplantation of Human Organs and Tissues Act. So why the need arose? There is a huge gap. The technology has developed, the science has progressed, as Dr. Jash told. This is the one of the largest wonder in the medical science. So there was exploitation also of the poor to have organs for the rich. So this act was enacted in the year 1994, which provides a regulation for removal, storage, transplantation of the human organs and tissues for therapeutic purposes and prevention of commercial dealings. So chronology of it was enacted in 1994 and amended through years, and the last amendment was done in 2014. And that includes tissues were included in this. Organ swapping was legalized. Penalties, which were earlier very, very minimal, has been enhanced. Grandparents and grandchildren were included in the list of the near relatives. So the legal requirements for us to know regarding to promote or to launch the disease donor transplantation program, which is also mandatory given in the National Organ and Tissue Transplantation Program launched by Government of India in 2014, and various regional rotos and noto rotos and sotos came into being, and one of the mandate is to promote disease donor program. So in this, we need to have the registration, retrieval and transplant centers. There are various sections. I will just enumerate section 14. Very, very important is brain death certification, without which we cannot move forward. Consent of the next of the kin is very important. The definition of next of the kin is also very important to understand. The liaising with the police for NOC, as per the rule, is to be important in the medical legal cases. In brain death, in these disease donation, most of these are more than 95%, are the medical legal cases. And sharing of organs and coordination with various hospitals, as an organ is a national treasure and it should not go waste. And then, of course, we need to get the postmortem done in a time-bound manner, and that is also in the Act. So registration, the various steps which we need to, many of you will be knowing, but just to sensitize and to aware and to make this process, more popularized, so that we take part. People get afraid that we may have some, legal hassle later on, or some black, market is going on. In this part of the country, in the northern part of the country, we really need to work hard to promote this program. So we need to, wherever the facilities are, we need to register for retrieval and transplant centers. It's very simple process. We need to have the intensive care unit facilities, requisite trained manpower, that is doctors, the team of nurses, anesthetists, technicians, and proper infrastructure and equipment to diagnose and maintain brainstem dead person. That is, the ICU is there, ventilator is there, and good trained, dedicated manpower. This becomes very simple. And facility for temporary storage and transport of organs and tissues, linkages with the nearby government hospital designated for postmortem and retrieval in MLCs, medical legal cases, as in few hospitals, in the most of the private hospital, there is no facility for conducting the postmortem and to keep the bodies up to the postmortem. And role is mandatory transplant coordinators. Every hospital need to have our center has to have a post-transplant coordinators who have the very pivotal role to play. Further, the application for registration is to be made to the appropriate authority. Every state, at the central level also, there are appropriate authorities, and this is to be specified in Form 12 or Form 13, whatever center you want to make, has to be given with the requisite fees. And appropriate authority, after holding an inquiry and inspecting the centers, give the registration certificate, which is valid for 5 years, and it has to be renewed then, which is done on the Form 7. These are the few, snapshots of the various forms, Form 12 and 13, Form 16 and 17. So another challenge which comes to the hospital administrators, as I was telling, Dr. Gupta was telling, as a medical superintendent, most of the time he has to, constitute a brain death certification committees, and which is as per the TOA rule 5.4, and it is no doubt an easy task. So it's a challenge for the hospital administrators, because one of the members is a hospital administrator itself, and other members are neurologists, or a neurosurgeon, or an anesthetist, or an internist, independent surgeon or physician, and a treating doctor. And very important is two of them, the neurologist, neurosurgeon, anesthetist, or independent surgeon or physician, have to be on the registered panel, which is given go ahead by the appropriate authority. They have to be registered. That is very, very important. Only then this committee become valid. And this formation, enlist the suggested members with name, designation, with their signature, submit the proposed committee to state appropriate, which I was telling you earlier, and you get the, go ahead by that committee. So brain death certification is very important to declare a person, potential donor, as a brain dead. Only after that, and this is done after doing 2 inspections at the interval with the different age groups, from age 7 to 2 months, it's 48 hours. From age 2 months to 1 year, it's 24 hours. 1 year and above, it is within 6 hours. And this is to be given on Form 10. Various tests are, to be performed, which are mandatory, and the most important is the apnea test. So with this, all the members have to be convinced, and it is the most challenging task which hospital administrators do face while going through this, and many issues, legal and ethical, also arises. But if we go as per the stipulated act, so problems are less. So next important, the next consent from the next of the kin. That is as per the rule 5.5, we are the TOHA. So it's a very very sad situation. The next of the kins are really in a very very bad mood. The person is dying, though the heart is beating, but the brain is not functioning. So we need to have a very good transplant coordinator with good communication skills, and the role of the hospital administrator, we people, is very important to select such a good communicator, the transplant coordinator, who could break the news in a way that the people, the next of the kin, accept it with a heart. And we need to create a very good place for this quiet place, so that we can talk to them, and the appropriate time has to be choose for to break this news. So how we can explain the concept of brain death to many of us, we have done studies in sometime PGI also. Many of us don't have the concept of brain death, as Dr. A.K. Gupta sir was also highlighting. Be available and approachable all the time with the family. Provide information as much as they want. Don't be over enthusiastic also. Be sensitive to their feelings and understanding. Exchange information in a comfortable setting. Seeking the consent is very important. Though I have given my consent in my life, I have agreed to pledge my organs. But after when I'm declared brain dead, it is the next of the kin who has to give the consent. That is very important. And we have to ascertain it, the transplant coordinators, so that in life I may have refused. That is a very difficult situation. We face many problems, and we have handled, sir has discussed many studies, and because the lack of the time, we could not discuss such situations. But seeking the consent of the next of the kin, in the spouse case, maybe the wife, husband is the potential donor, wife is not available in the hospital, the brothers are there. So we have to take now we can take consents also. That is also mandated in the act itself. So it has to be taken on the Form 8, which is quite elaborative, and the two signatures are to be taken, and only then we proceed for further, transplantation. The police NOC in medical legal cases. Police is a big challenge as per Rule 6. There is no form. We have in PGI developed our own form to take the NOC, that this organ is not, involved for the, jurisprudence or the medical legal investigations. And the police officer has to also satisfy that nothing wrong in this, by giving the consent has taken place. So, but police, sometimes it's very tough to convince, but as per the rule, we have to take their consent. Their challenge is lack of awareness, because I am discussing these, the act provides them, and challenges come before us. Lack of awareness with the police, huge distances. The case may have come from, far off Himachal to the PGI or in other states also. And there is indifferent attitude. Most of the time they say, we only know one death. That is, when we come for the postmortem. There is no consent. We don't know what is brain death. So we have to convince, and many times we have done this. And so way forward is sensitization, meetings with the police officer, their senior officer, that is, and use of technology, because they have to say NOC and we cannot come. So WhatsApp, email, fax, all these are to be used, and Act provides them all these things. The police clearance, we have developed a form as per the Act. So allocation is a key point as far as the Act is concerned. Every hospital, they have their own criterias how to go about it. But one of the main objective of the NOTO is to have a waiting list registry at the central at one place. For this, the efforts are being made. We have a central registry coming up, but health being state subject, all states are maintaining according to their own policy the list. But once the allocation has to be done, it is well documented in the worst where the hospital based list. So organ, as per the scoring, waiting list is given to the hospital where the organs are being retrieved, and they have the transplant center there. So first they are to be used there. Then there is a state waiting list, then the regional, then national level it goes. And the persons of the Indian origins are always given preference. And if there is no matching recipient, then the foreigners are considered for the same. So allocation criteria is well documented in the Act, and it has to be followed very strictly. So sharing of organs, as Dr. Gupta has also shared, calculation, no organ should go waste. It's a national treasure. We should have that kind of thing in our mind. And how can we share? So when we don't have any matching recipient with us, so there is sometimes unwilling recipient also. Recipient is, but he doesn't want to get the organ. So there could be cross-match failure, which will be discussed by my next speaker, Dr. Ashish Sharma. There are logistic problem. The recipient cannot come. So we have already networking between NOTO, ROTO, and SOTO. It's a great work done by the government of India, liaising with other departments like the Dr. Sharma was asking how to do it. So we need to have the good liaising with the police, the administration, local administration, the airport authority. The Civil Aviation Ministry has issued directions to all the airports that this, organ transportation should be seamless. A few criteria are to be fulfilled. The certificates are to be given, and we ensure that so that the organs could be airlifted, and these can be transported by road also, which we have done many a times by coordinating with the different police authorities. These are the few documents to be given when the organ are being transported. And most of the time, these are being transported by the transplant coordinators, their name, everything, what organ is going, and if it is going by road, and by if it is going by air, the letter has to go, and certificate from the hospital administrator, whosoever medical superintendent, the chief, CEO, has to be given. It is there. I am showing it. And the cost, the question comes, who will maintain the potential donor? In the Act, there is a provision that cost can be borne by the potential recipients, or the government can give it, or the non-government organization, or society as such can pay for those things. But in PGI, what we have done, all expenses, once the person is declared brain dead, are borne by the PGI. That policy we have made. So postmortem, after retrieving the organs, our job is not done. So most of the cases, as I told you, medical legal cases, we need to coordinate with the police to get the postmortem. But there is a provision in the Act itself. While retrieving the organs, the postmortem can be done, but there are certain problems as far as jurisprudence is concerned. The forensic team is to be involved. And now we are trying to do it simultaneously so that they can see the organs. Now we write all the findings in the file itself, and afterwards the postmortem is done, and body. These are the forms, various forms which have been developed by the what findings are to be written. So we have it simplified, because after they have donated, the relatives, the next they can hurry to take the body home. So that we have to expedite it, and the Act also mandate that. So another role, this was with how to create the centers. We have to promote organ donation. This is also as per the Act. So many of you who are participating may have pledged the organs. You are not done, please do it. It is done through Form 7. It can be done physically. It could be done online with the NOTO, the respective ROTOs and SOTOs. And we have to be above 18 years once we can pledge the organs. So we have to do a lot of awareness activities for this, so that the movement, the number which is being shown as so dismal level in India could go high. This is the form on which we can give our consent or pledge. So this is the donor card, which is NOTO issues. It's a unique number. So it has to be with you all the time. So in the end, because I have to rush through the slide, the success story of any disease donor transplantation is a testimony to the fact that those who attend strongly and act passionately make a way forward even in the less traversed terrain. So if it is a less terrain, we, the committed hospital administrators, must rise to the occasion, promote disease organ donation in the society, go for organ pledging, and wherever we are working and we have the requisite facilities, should create retrieval and transplant center. With this, I conclude my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vipin. May I request Dr. Ashish Sharma for going ahead with his presentation, please? Professor Ashish.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers, the Academy of Hospital Administration, to invite me for this talk. So is my slide visible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Please go ahead.
Right. So I'll
We can hear you.
If you could please put it on slideshow, it will be nicer.
yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, so before I start my presentation, I just thought I'll just show you this picture. Many of you probably would have seen this is going around the social media, and that's a kidney, and kidneys come from the pig, and this is meant to be a major advance in the science, that a pig kidney is worked in a human being last month. So unfortunately, we've been hearing this for the last many years, but I mean, this is the first instance it's actually been done in a human being, but till it is still comes into real practice, we are faced with a situation where we don't have enough donors, and we are facing a huge epidemic of end-stage organ disease. And I think it's the right time that we all gear up for this challenge and take appropriate action so that we can benefit our population and community. So this is, I divided my talk into these three categories, and before I take up questions, and I think Professor Gupta already told about the need for organ replacement therapy. So unfortunately, we do not have any Indian data, and this is data from the US, where the pink color depicts the ever-rising number of patients with end-stage organ disease, and the blue are the transplants, and the green are the donors which have remained.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Excuse me. Sir, your slide is not changing on our end. We are still on the first slide. So I would request you to get out of the slideshow mode, because Chrome faces some problem regarding that. If so, if you could just, yes. Now, sir, please try changing the slides.
In fact, sir is not on slideshow.
No, ma'am. Sir, clicked on
I just
slideshow.
stopped my slideshow. Is it better
Yes,
now?
sir. Now it is changing. So please go ahead with this view. Please don't go into slideshow mode.
Okay, I'll just minimize this. Okay, so I think that's probably the best you can get then, right? Okay. So we were talking about the need. So is it better now?
Yes, sir. It's changing.
Yeah, it's
Visible also.
It's the appropriate slide now, sir.
Yeah, so the numbers are ever increasing, and so this is from the US data, where you see that the number of transplants and donations are like fairly constant or just increased minimally, whereas the number of patients requiring an end-stage organ transplant for end-stage organ disease have exponentially increased. And the need, why is this need getting more and more? It's not difficult to answer that we are able to diagnose and manage these end organ failures much better. We are able to dialyze patients with kidney failure, whereas in 1990s, they would probably die very early on. And we are able to treat medical conditions in a much better way. So you are able to treat cancer with chemotherapy, which may lead to damage to the kidneys or other organs. We've changed our lifestyle to a very sedentary lifestyle, which has led to a new condition called NASH, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is now becoming a dominant cause of liver failure. And then the organ transplant has moved from a life-saving to a life-enhancing therapy, and I'll come to that a little later on. And just I thought that to the hospital administrators, so this is a very important aspect, that what is the impact of organ replacement therapy, as in cost-wise. So cost of kidney transplant after the procedure will have the patient poorer by about 5,000 to 10,000 per month. But the same patient, if he's being medically managed on hemodialysis or peritoneal dialysis, your cost is almost 10 times more. So it makes a lot of sense to put more effort and more support for this type of therapy. And it's already being faced by the PMJ scheme, where most claims now, kidney dialysis now is the highest amount of expenditure for these claims. So I thought before I discuss further, so I should just give a brief overview of what is organ donation and transplantation all about. So one donor, one act of saying yes to organ donation can save up to 8 lives and can influence life of another 50 people, up to 50 people. So 8 lives are like 1 heart, 2 lungs, a liver, pancreas, 2 kidneys, and small bowel. But then there are other things which can be transplanted as well. So you have now transplantation of hands and joint, which can give you full mobility as compared to the artificial hands or the limbs, which do not allow freedom of movement. We've had examples of face being transplanted. If you see that there are these 2 images of a lady, the same lady, the images on the left are the ones after she had a dog bite and led to a lot of scarring. And after the face transplant, you cannot even recognize that she's had a major facial surgery. We've had examples of ovarian transplant, and we've had uterine transplant even in our own country in 2017, and India is one of the leading countries where uterine transplant has been done. And it's not only the quality of life is also changing. So we say that the transplant transforms life. So this is a lady who has had, she was driving on a bike and met with an accident. A truck crushed her. She lost both her hands and underwent a surgery. In our own country, 2 limbs were transplanted, and you can see that the difference in color of the skins. And now she's become a brand ambassador of the whole process of organ donation. And look at the smile on her face as compared to the despair she's had all the while. And she's not the only one. This another lady who's had a heart failure, who was an athlete, and after transplantation she could lead the Indian contingent at the World Olympic Games in 2019. So this is one of my own patients who was on insulin since 4 years of age, a 30 years old diabetic. And he's had a pancreas transplant, and look, he's enjoying his coffee from barista with no need of any insulin and no need of sugar monitoring. So that's why we say that the transplantation transforms life. And that's another example of our patient who had a kidney failure and who was an athlete, and see that he's goes to the gym and his body is probably more like, I mean, you cannot recognize that he's had a transplant by his looks. It's not only, and if we talk of the survival, so how long do you survive after transplantation? So I think most organs have now survival rates exceeding 90, except for heart and lungs, so which are also in the high 80s, which are not bad considering the survival rates after the end stage organ failure, which would be close to 20-30% only, except for the kidneys. And it's not only 1 year, they do survive even longer. So this is an example where 40 years gained by a twin after transplantation. And that's another example of a heart transplant patient who survived for 31 years after transplant. And you have an example of somebody surviving for 20 years after lung transplant. And then that's another example where you survived 38 years after your transplant. So now we know that these transplant organs can either come from the living donors or from the deceased donors. And living donors can obviously donate only 2 organs, mainly the kidneys and a part of the liver, and all the rest have to come from the deceased donors. So the deceased donors, so the concept here to understand is the brain death. That is how most of the donations happen across the world and in our country as well. And if you see that these are the 3 parts of the midbrain, the pons and the medulla. So that's what we call as the brain stem. So this part is the one which actually regulates all the functions of your body, the respiration and the heart. So if this part is damaged, you cannot breathe. And if you cannot breathe, then you cannot live. As simple as that. The moment you stop breathing, after some time, your brain stops to work and your heart stops and you die. And how does this brain death happen? So the most common mechanism is your injury to the brain, which can happen either because of your accidents or your strokes or your tumors, or sometimes if you have had a respiratory arrest, which causes hypoxia to your brain. So all of these will cause brain injury. And if you know that any injury anywhere in the body will cause some swelling. And unfortunately, the skull is a closed cavity. It cannot expand. So the swelling actually keeps on increasing the intracranial pressure, and once it goes to more than the systemic blood pressure, it stops all the circulation of flow to the brain, and that's what leads to brain death. And if you do a angiography on these patients, you will see that the carotid arteries will stop at the site where they enter the skull, and this is one of the definitive evidence where we say that this is called the patient cannot live any longer. Unfortunately, while one person can donate up to 8 life-saving organs, but only 3 in 1,000 die in a way that allows organ donation. Means that it's such a low incidence of brain death happening. So it is a must that we should try to get all organs, all donations. We should recognize all brainstem deaths and ask for organ donations in these instances. So next, if you see how much is the organ donation happening across the world. So if we see, this is the donation rate is measured in number of donors per million population, right? So Spain is the highest, and although the too many countries listed, but you struggle to find India, and the reason is not that the font is small. The reason is that India is less than 1 donation per million population, as compared to now the rate for Spain is nearing 50. So as compared to 50, we are little less than 1, and many countries are there. Who have a range of between 50 to 25. So which means that we still have to do a lot of work here. So what is happening in our own country, if you see, is that this is the chart where we see that the number of donations, they have increased over the last decade or so. So the number of donations, 194 in year 2012, and now we are still less than 1,000. So 1.4 billion population and only 1,000 donations. So 4 lakh accident deaths happening every year and less than 1,000 donations. So definitely there's a huge scope and there's a huge need as well. We have to do something about it, and that's the map of India to show you which states have done well in this. So if you see that the southern part of the country is like all green, and all the green color represents that they're doing organ donation in a big way, and it's spreading slowly towards the north and the west region. But a lot of country, nearly more than half of the country, still has to start a regular organ donation program here. So again, these are the numbers from Tamil Nadu. These are the 2017 figures from different states, and if you see that Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra they probably lead the list. They have been leading the list for many years, like they do 160 donations every year. But if you talk in terms of donations per million population, then Chandigarh suddenly becomes number 1, as Chandigarh has a low population base. and number of donations are per million population become very high as compared to Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. So it's good to see that these numbers are increasing, and this is another statistics from the state of Tamil Nadu, where you see from 2008, like if you see that most of the organs, they were like 0,000 only, and now if you see 2020, you've got significant numbers coming up here, and nearly 8,205 people have benefited in the state of Tamil Nadu by the act of donations from about 1,400 donors. And if you see the list, they've used heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, valves, cornea, skin, pancreas, small bowel, blood vessels, bone, spine, disc, hands, abdominal flap, and whatnot, right? So things look quite encouraging here, and same is the story for Telangana and Maharashtra, so I'll not go into the details for them. And so I'll just talk about our own experience, what we have done. Professor Gupta showed you some of the figures where we have done in the last few years, and this is the donations happening in our institute over the last few years. And if you see that the number of donations is increasing over a period of time, and to find the reasons, so if you see that before 2008 there were very few donations happening, and what brought the change in our own institute, I can tell you very clearly. And if we can replicate this experience elsewhere, I think we can bring the change. So these were the 4 obstacles we had at our own institute, or maybe anywhere else. So main was the administrative, like nobody in the administration. If nobody in the administration is interested, it cannot happen. And Dr. Gupta and Dr. Vipin have shown that they worked tremendously hard behind this scene to make it happen. And each donation has happened, like I can recall many of the donations happening only because these 2 people are there to support the cause wholeheartedly and to go out of the way to help these issues being faced in the consent process, or related to provision of bed for the potential organ donor patient. So administrative support is very important. And second is the health professionals who themselves are not aware, or they have a feeling of guilt that, oh, this patient has died, and they live in this guilt, and they do not want to ask for organ donation. So we need to create this awareness that death is going to happen in whatever you do. Some people are going to die, some patients are going to die, but we should not hesitate and to ask for organ donation, because that act of donation can bring some good out of a bad happen to the family. We've had infrastructural problems. I'll come to that. So that's our emergency. If you see, it's hugely overburdened and overloaded, and patients on AMBU. So these are the challenges, that you do not find a patient. You have a patient, but you do not have a bed in the ICU to take care of the patient. So how can you ask for an organ when you're not able to provide an ICU bed to a patient? So the same slide, I've tried to put some reasons that how we initiated. So before 2008, we were not doing much donations, and that's the time we sat together and we held a symposium, and we thought, and we sat together how to initiate, and then after that thing happened, that we thought we'll start to work with the neurosurgeons and the hospital administration and the intensivist. And then there was a change in leadership in 2011 at the director level, who was very keen in starting the liver transplant. And then the liver transplant happened next year, and that led to improvement in the numbers of organ donations. And we had a transplant coordinator who actually is the one who consults all the family members and asks at the time of death or before that, he will counsel the families, prepare them and ask for consent. And then which led to even a higher number of donations. And we had a heart transplant in 13 and a pancreas transplant in 14. And then we realized the benefit of this transplant coordinator, and we had 3 coordinators in 2015, which massively increased the number of organ donations and kidney transplants from them. And And then another change was that we started counseling even in the triage area. We realized that these patients are in a bad shape. That is the reason they are not being shifted to the ICU. So asking them, after explaining them the poor outcome, asking them about organ donation has brought a lot of utility and utility of shifting these patients to the ICU and providing and having a yes from this. And lastly, we actually had expanded our donor pool by accepting marginal kidneys. So earlier kidneys like a patient who has diabetes, a donor who has diabetes, we used to discard those kidneys. Donor with fever and sepsis, we discarded those kidneys. But now we are, by the success of our program, we have been able to accept those. And recently we did a donor who had diabetes for the last 14 years, and we were quite reluctant, did a kidney biopsy. The kidney biopsy showed that there were some changes, and then we put both the kidneys in one patient. So these type of examples we have done to increase our numbers. So if I can just to conclude my talk, the last two slides. So what are the challenges for the India in terms of disease donation is concerned? We need to have enough infrastructure, both in terms of ICUs, manpower, intensivist, transplant professionals, so that we are able to handle these cases. So we need to have excellent emergency services, so that patient who has an accident is not brought dead, but is brought in a timely manner to the hospital, where he can be maintained till organ donation can be thought of. And we need to create awareness, as Dr. Gupta, Dr. Kaushal has said, that our doctors even are not aware. In fact, there is no curriculum in the medicine in our undergraduate or postgraduate curriculum where we are taught about brain death. At least it was not there at the time when we were taught. And the only time I heard of brain death when I joined the transplant as a specialty. So I think we need to create this awareness amongst our intensivists and doctors, so that they just have to recognize brain death. It happens all the while. There are well described figures. Any ICU, you will have some percentage of patients dying with this mode of death, and we just have to ask for organ donation. It's always that not everybody is going to agree for donation, but if you ask, at least some people will agree. And that if you do these two things, you are definitely going to have organ donation. And definitely you need to create awareness. And we've been doing all these activities. We're trying to bring some famous personalities, like we have transplant games where these people who've had transplant participate, and it could involve famous personalities like Rishi Kapoor to create all this coverage in the press, so which can actually work in your favor. And all this is not a one-man show, so you need to have a big team, and that's our transplant team. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Thank you, Dr. Ashish. Thank you, Dr. Vipin. May I open the floor for questions, please? Yes, Dr. Surekha, please go ahead.
Sir, I have a genuine question about how do we go forward when the deceased has expressed his or her willingness for organ donation, but the next of kin is obviously distraught about the news of the death or impending death, and the other relatives are refusing. How do we tackle that situation?
You want me to reply?
Sir, please, sir.
The law is very clear on it. Whatever consent the deceased has given while he was alive, that his organs could be retrieved on his death. But once he is no more, he cannot say anything. It's the highest duty either to give the consent or not. Of course, very often they withdraw the consent. And the answer is, that's why the government has introduced kidney transplant or transplant coordinator. It is the job of the coordinators to coordinate with the family and be a bridge between the donor family, the legal heirs, and the concerned specialists in case there are doubts. But finally, the last word is the will of hearts will prevail.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, in that case, why do you actually need organ pledging when you are alive, if that be the case?
Let me share with you the organ pledges have been increased tremendously. There has been a huge efforts at every level. Our ROTO, as I shared with you, with Dr. Vipanathan, we have introduced one of the innovative idea in Chandigarh that the driving license mentions OD, organ donor. It is at the time the person goes for the organ driving license, he is asked, really like to be known as organ donor or not? Because that is the very key thing. And I'm very happy that has made a huge positive difference. And the efforts are taken by, initiated by my colleagues, be it Professor R.K. Deman, the present director of SGPJ, who was former professor of the institute and department, Professor Bipan, and Professor Shish. But again, the same, whenever we conduct a lot of training programs, lot of interactions, and my ROTO has done a great job. As I shared with you, that PJ has won awards, both the 4-time organ donations awards have been announced, and all 4 times PJ has won the first award, best ROTO hospital. And as far as the 5 ROTOs are concerned, our ROTO has won prize repeatedly. I think what activities we carry out, tremendous activity. Dr. Bipan is almost virtually every week is on the road with a group of people. I think Professor Bipan kindly add.
You said, Dr. Sharma, why pledge if it is to be not fulfilled? Actually, pledging, if I pledge, it's a gesture to bring awareness, because many people don't know what is organ donation and how many lives it can save. So it's a gesture as we promote it. But in the act, the provision at present is the consent of the next of the kin. So when we get pledged the organs, we also tell the one who is pledging, please tell your next of the kin, please tell your spouse or your family that I have pledged my organs, and if that situation comes, please fulfill my desire will, so that I am able to save the lives. So as of now, we have highlighted this. Now as I said, legal hire are available, are not available in the hospital. So available attendants. Now there will be amendments as we go through. It's a very, in 1994 only the act was made, and so many hassles come. Now we have increased, for the live donations, for the donors, the grandparents, grandchildren have come. Now the changes are being taking place. So first, the awareness is very important. That gesture is there, and the next of the family member should fulfill that will and desire. That's why the consent as per the act is there. So we have to fulfill that. But as administrators, we should do a lot of work for awareness and promotion of organ donation.
Sure.
But the act will remain as act. We have to follow that also. And transplant coordinator's role is very, very important. We have to select very good communicators, motivators for this program.
Let me add one more thing. There are provisions of opt-in and opt-out. And that has helped. And I think in the state of Tamil Nadu, there is such a provision. And maybe somewhere down the line, it may be available through the world. In Spain and other developed countries, this is a provision. If somebody has
have, sir, but we have opt any, sir, hamara abhi opt out is in Spain and all those countries, sir.
So
just to add,
there are issues that there are barriers, legal barriers. There are plenty of positive things in the law, but then there are barriers. So maybe the government in its wisdom find that opening up so liberally will further increase illegal trade. Maybe somewhere down the time when the system is more foolproof, government will come out with amendments, which they have been doing very frequently. At least this present government is very, very positive and proactive in improving the things, be it promoting NOTO, be it infusing funds for the organization. Things are happening, and as you very rightly said, can we do it? Maybe somewhere down the line, 2 years, 4 years, this may be that opt-out may be provided, and then whosoever has given the consent, unless he opts it out, his organ could be retrieved. Thank you. Over to you.
So just to add to this is that the consent makes it much easier. The consent makes it much easier for the transplant coordinators to go and talk with the family to initiate this talk. So the first thing they'll go and ask is, has this patient ever pledged organs during his life? So if that consent is there, it's much easier for them to talk about all this. But as Dr. Gupta has said, that the consent of kin is still required.
Yeah, I think probably the pledging also may happen in some other state and the death may have happened in another state. So there could be a central kind of a repository where we know that, at least the RATO, SATO and NATO should know that which are the people who have actually pledged, maybe.
Yeah, it is the same way we are working on it.
Mhm. Okay. Any other question, please? Sir, one point that you made, sir, Dr. Vipin, you made that, the state is helping in terms of the organ donation and in terms of you take up the funding. One of the points that Dr. Ashish made was, Spain is leading in terms of organ transplant. One of the reasons could be that their insurance profiling is so high that they are able to cater to such both the donor and recipient side care provision. In our case, probably that even today, people have to fend from their own pocket. And that is precisely the reason probably that people don't opt for an organ transplant if, they see that there is no point in getting a transplant done, excepting for the rich and the rich who have the wherewithal. So do you think that's a point, and has PGI's methodology is something that which other states can emulate?
Very valid question you have raised. It's the both way, the maintenance of the donor, potential donor, as well as the cost to the recipient itself. These are the problems. But
Right.
in the act itself, the provision is for the BPL families. They provide funds because this program has come up. But some states have adopted this, or some states are not. So in Tamil Nadu, it's all, government given program. The will of the government is there. So various, they have a transplant, there is a transplant society which supports all this program. So in
Right.
PGI, we are not giving for the recipient, but if the patient is poor, that recipient is poor, no doubt we support. But donor cost, we are bearing all the donor cost. That is also quite a cost.
Yes.
To maintain the donor. But we are doing, but there are provisions in the act itself, the funding is there. Now, Ayushman Bharat, there was no earlier organ donation was there, not the transplantation was not there. Now they have included when it was based by the transplant section. So it's there, it's a big, support for that transplantation program, Ayushman Bharat.
Sure. I think that makes sense. Right. Dr. Yash, any last words from your end? Any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, we have already crossed the time limit, and I would only like to thank the speakers once again. They were excellent talk. They have given very informative talks, and we get very less opportunities to meet such eminent speakers. So I thank you once again, and I think we have some certificates for them. You can show those certificates at this moment. So we present you through e-board only. And then we will be sending it to you because we have started this. It's a sort of remembrance. Keep it to your press with you.
An appreciation from our side, sir. And
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
COVID has changed so many things.
Yeah, we-
Technology. Thank you.
And I'll request Dr. Vipin and Dr. Ravi to please send us the good photographs so that we can send you the certificates at the earliest.
We will do that. Already we have sent, but I think you didn't like that. We will send the good one.
Yeah, we want it should look good actually. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr.
No, I think after this, sir, there is nothing more to be said, sir. It's a wonderful session, and I think people talk about number 13 as a jinx number, but I would say with this lecture, it has been made not a jinx number, and it is a number that we should revere, and we should talk about organ transplantation going forward. I think very apt and timely made session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone,
Brother
and
Yash.
thanks
Thank you.
all
Thank you, Sharma. Thank you very
for
much.
staying for
Bye-bye.
such a long time. Thank you.
Stay safe. Take care. Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.